So we've all been in that situation where you're in a meeting listening to somebody, and no matter what that person says or how good their ideas are, for some reason when that person speaks, everybody else in the room just listens. And you know that you could say the exact same thing, and for some reason it just wouldn't land with the same impact. So why is it that some people are able to command a room in that way while others of us go unnoticed? Well, what they've got is gravitas, and in this video I'm going to share 3 tips on how you can have more gravitas in meetings. So the first one is to avoid the upward inflection. So you know when people go up at the end of every sentence and it's really annoying because it sounds like they're asking a question? So this makes you sound like you're unsure. It's very polite, it's very deferential, but it doesn't instill confidence. So what you want to go for instead is the downward inflection. So rather than saying something like, next year we're aiming for 20% revenue growth, instead you say, next year we're aiming for 20% revenue growth. So you can see this is a lot stronger than when you're using the upward inflection. Tip number 2 is to speak 20% slower than you normally would. So studies show that when people speak slower, we generally perceive them as having more confidence, as being more authoritative. But the added bonus of speaking slower is that you also buy yourself time to think. So you can formulate your ideas properly and you can enunciate properly. So aim to speak 20% slower in meetings. And tip number 3 is to harness the power of silence. So if you want to win a negotiation, the way to do it is to actually speak less and hold a silence. And this is also how journalists do their work, is how they do their interviews. They create a void, and the person they're interviewing feels awkward and feels that they need to fill it and ends up saying more than they wanted to say. So if you can be comfortable with silence, what that shows is that you are feeling confident, you're comfortable in your own skin, and it helps you speak with more impact. So make sure that you pause before you make an important point, and also after you make an important point, to really help that message land. And as always, when you're doing any kind of public speaking, it's all about saying less but with more impact. So tip number 1, avoid the upward inflection. Tip number 2, speak 20% slower. And tip number 3, harness the power of silence.